Yeah, because toilets aren't sexy, right? Everybody likes a countertop, that granite countertop, all these different amenities that they add. So it seems like when we would look at these bathrooms, everything else was upgraded, but that poor neglected toilet that has been there since the property was built is still there.
And they even had to remove the toilet to lay down the new flooring. And then they just cleaned it up and then they just set it back in there. And it's amazing.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to Weiss Advice. I am your host, Yona Weiss, and with me today I have a dynamic duo, Kelly Stinson and Anselmo Torres, the potty princess and the newly crowned Duke of Toilets.
Yeah, thank you. I got my crown now. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's awesome to be speaking with you guys. They are, you guys don't know them. I mean, if you're on social media or if you've been at any conferences in the multifamily industry whatsoever, I'm sure you know who they are. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're with Sustainability Solutions, helping people, right, cut down their conservation costs on water spending. And, toilets are, it just, you spend too much money if you don't have the right plan. So you don't have the right utilities, right? You don't have the right appliance. What are they called? Yeah. Toilets.
Yeah. Yeah, the plumbing fixtures.
Plumbing, right? There you go.
All of that, yeah.
So we share, we have a joke now where we say, hey, friends don't let friends buy multifamily properties that have huge water waste or toilets in them.
There you go.
Those old dinosaurs, we want to get rid of them. Like there's a lot out there in the wild. So that's our mission.
It's so true. And I mean, you guys find like even newer properties that are built still have, well, not newer properties, but renovated. They still are employing the old systems. Old plumbing systems, and unfortunately, it's costing people a lot of money. I know you guys are really passionate about it. It comes through, and I know I had a chance to meet you guys back in LA last year, and that was incredible. Now you guys are getting back out to conferences.
Absolutely, we were in one in Houston this past weekend, and it was like old times.
Yes.
It felt great.
Although we feel like we have to go back through conference training, right? So you can't just hit mute and then turn your camera off and walk away.
Yeah.
It's like being reacclimated with.
Yes.
And then standing and shaking people's hands. It was like my hands were sore after a while. My feet were sore. Like, man, I'm definitely out of conference shape. So
blow the dust off your business cards and pamphlets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But it was great. It was a great event. So lots of great people out there, lots of individuals, looking just to network with other like-minded individuals. So awesome. We were excited.
Yeah. And people, I mean, one of the things that funny thing, right? One of the things you hear about people investing in multifamily or real estate in general, right? That they don't want to invest in real estate is because of the 3 T's, right? The tenants, the toilets, and the termites. Taxes. Is that the other taxes? I don't know what
taxes.
Taxes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm handling one, you're handling the other. Like who's going to deal with the tenants? I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is that you guys come in with like a totally different perspective. No, like toilets, if you get it set up right, you have nothing to worry about.
Yep.
And that's a challenge, it's the education piece. And so that's really where we come in and share that education about why, yes, we all want to save water. That's our passion. But there's also a financial incentive behind it too. So everybody likes making more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's what we want to help out with.
Yep. So that's how we're fulfilled, because we're hitting our personal platform of conservation, preserving the world's most precious resource, which is water, but then being able to improve NOI on the property and then boost the asset value. And, one of the pieces that we found out, over the last couple of years is that there's not a whole lot of resources, like a library of resources for multifamily owners to go to make it simple for underwriting when you're looking at a water efficiency program, right. Or they just think, oh, I need to put in a WaterSense certified toilet and I'm going to hit the numbers. And something that we have learned along the way is not all toilets are created equal. So while you may go in and you may install a certain toilet thinking that, oh, this is going to reduce, my expense line 20 to 40%, you don't see that, you don't see the needle move a whole lot on it because it's just not efficient. It wasn't designed correctly. So we see that a lot inside of a lot of chat groups where, owners, multifamily owners are talking about, the sewer backups on their aging properties, after they've installed low flow toilets. So that is the piece that is really important for us, is to make sure that we're educating around the engineering of these particular products and what should be done when you're out there running due diligence, and then the financial component, backing into the calculator. Right. Like we get down to the number of times a day you flush a toilet. So, I bet nobody really wants to talk about that, but you do, because every time you flush the toilet, that's literally money going down the drain.
Right. For sure. And I'm sure it's increased tremendously by all the, stay at home, work from home, everything like that.
Yeah. What was the increase in consumption?
We saw a 3 to 5 times increase in consumption, really once March hit, right? March 2020, the 3 to 5 times increase in water consumption. And that, sustained over time. Nobody had that in their budget for 2020. I know that. Right. So how do we offset that and, get ahead in 2021? And that's where we're getting involved with, so many different owners and putting together some solutions for them here in 2021. Gotcha.
So you guys creating some sort of educational platform. It sounds like we're going to be making videos, making some, writing articles and things like that. Because, like you said, there is not a lot out there that no one can go to. I'm sure there are certain, pamphlets and things like that from, Fannie and Freddie have like these green programs, and I'm sure you can find on their website like a 1-pager or something, right? Mm-hmm. But actually going down and explaining, walking through the numbers, which you guys have done. And I've seen, a webinar you guys have presented that you're really walking down the numbers of what the difference in the cost and the NOI, right? The more you can bring down costs, the more value you actually add to your property.
Exactly. And that makes for really happy investors, right? Because you want those investors to come back on future properties that you might sponsor.
100%.
We laugh because we get a lot of text messages from, investors that are doing due diligences, and they're out on a property. They're taking pictures of the toilets that are on that property and saying, hey, is there an opportunity here? So that's how we educate, and that's how we are a resource for investors. If you're out there doing the due diligence, then it's the picture.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys can create some sort of I was going to say like a coffee table book, but like a book, a picture book of all the different types of toilets out there. I wouldn't put on my coffee table, but maybe a bathroom reading book. All the different...
I think that is a fantastic idea. And we have started a really good collage amongst our team that we share back and forth of the different units we've been into. I mean, Anselmo's walked over 30,000.
Yes.
I think we're over 40,000 bathrooms now that you've walked.
Yes.
So we've seen a lot. We've seen those, powder blue, vintage toilets from the very early 50s and the Harvest Gold toilets. And we just recently, a few months back, pulled out some toilets that were 5 gallons per flush. And that's incredible. I mean,
give me a context. What should it be?
Well, it should be 0.8 because you should be installing the Niagara because that's the most efficient product. But typically, any type of new build that's out there today is going to be between a 0.8 to a 1.28. So if you are in a property that's built, before 1995, it's a perfect candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect candidate.
EPA law is 1.6, so nothing can be installed that's above 1.6. So anything moving forward is at least the 1.6. Hopefully it's less.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. But that's crazy. And you're finding all these old installments that are just, like you said, flushing money down the drain. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because toilets aren't sexy, right? Everybody likes a countertop, that granite countertop, all these different amenities that they add. So it seems like when we would look at these bathrooms, everything else was upgraded, but that poor neglected toilet that has been there since the property was built is still there.
And they even had to remove the toilet to lay down the new flooring. Right. And then they just cleaned it up and then they just set it back in there. And it's amazing because everybody's all about sharing on social media with all their videos. And I love that. But it just breaks my heart every time I see a video and I'm like, man, those finishes are beautiful. And I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for them to go down the hallway and go into the bathroom. And it's almost like, that excitement, of, entering, like the most exciting ride ever. And then they get around the corner and I'm like, oh man, they forgot to do the toilet.
We're going to call them now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm calling you now.
I just saw your video on Facebook.
And actually, we did that with somebody.
Yeah.
Because that's how we got connected with somebody at a conference last year.
Wow.
Because we saw that and we're like, hey, not sure if you know this. And so we sat down and again, it's just education.
It's education. Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think we're for a lot of all intents and purposes in a very similar situation because, kind of niche products, niche services where they can add tremendous amount of value. And it's like a no-brainer for anyone to do, but it's just education. It really is just like showing people the numbers like, oh, okay. So I invest X and I get, 10X return on investment.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for anyone who's thinking, but again, it's just one of those things. If you don't know about it, you just miss it.
Yep. That's exactly right. And, we have a lot of, individuals that have asked us along the way, like, hey, I have construction crews that can just do this, in-house.
Right.
It's complicated and it's manual labor, right? I mean, those old toilets are heavy and then you're dealing with plumbing. So, when you're looking at the cost of waiting of that, those crews may only, while they're running the make-readies and getting the countertops and floors going, they may only finish out maybe 10 or 20 a month. Our crews actually install 50 to 60 bathrooms a day. So when we're talking about cost of waiting, it's immediate. So we're finding a lot of sponsors now. Day one, we're out there on the property starting, the pre-install inspection and getting things ready because they know that that's the quickest return on boosting the cash flow.
Yeah. So you talked about some horror stories, right? Of the video coming around the corner. That old toilet. But maybe give me maybe like a fun story or an awesome story that you guys have encountered recently, or maybe not even recently, just the past couple of years doing this.
Yeah, we have so many.
So I was on a property yesterday. I was taking a look at it, working with the owners, and like everything else, again, they spent a ton of money on CapEx on the outside, did nothing on the inside, right? And we put together the numbers for them and they just were like, oh my God, so you're telling me that based on changing out the toilets, I can do this and not have to touch anything else on the inside? So, we get stories like that all the time.
Yeah.
So that existing owners.
What's the average cost of savings for like per unit that you're seeing?
Anywhere from 20 to 40%. Wow. And that is a big delta, right? 20 to 40%. So it depends on, really what the water and sewer rate structure looks like in that utility provider, as well as the fixtures that are on place. But
I like to describe it as if this is a dating website, right? And I'm going to swipe right, then I want that property is built before 1995, right? Is class B or C, and it hasn't had any major plumbing upgrades. We are swiping right all day on that. That's exactly who we want.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But don't discredit that either, because there's a property that we just finished. The owners closed on the property December of last year, and the previous owner had implemented a water efficiency project, pulled all the toilets out, put 1.28 in January of 2020. And so when we ran the analysis, the preliminary analysis, we're like, the numbers are okay, but they're not exactly where, I would be super excited to get behind it. But I'm like, hey, this is all about efficiencies. And I love that. You guys are hitting on my personal platform. Well, before we started the install, we placed some sensors out on their meters to understand some of the, water consumption patterns that were occurring on the property. What we found out, though, is that those flappers inside of the toilet, inside of the tank, like that little rubber flapper, that quite a few of them were actually leaking very quietly. And the sensors were sharing that detail with us, where it was actually leaking out 1.78 gallons per minute across that property.
Wow.
So when you scale that and then you quantify it, basically where we're looking at now, when we pulled all those toilets out, put everything in, we can see the gaps now in the middle of the night where there is absolutely no water going through. And they're going to see 2.5 time increase of what we had originally projected, because we weren't measuring the leak rate on those flappers. We were just measuring off of the flow rate.
She mentioned the sensors that we applied. So you said, hey, what's a good story? So a lot of what happened in Texas in February with the ice and the really bad cold and
no power
or water for a lot of properties. Yeah. So we had placed a lot of sensors, water monitoring sensors on some of these properties. And I mean, it just started going off. We started getting all these alerts from properties that were starting to encounter leaks, right? So it was nice to be able to reach out to that individual owner ahead of time and say, hey, look, I know you know what's going on, but we just got an alert for your property that there's a leak taking place. So that was good. It felt like us coming to save the day.
Yeah.
In a really difficult situation.
Like the water warriors.
Yeah, exactly. People don't take into account like the emergency services that you guys provide also, which is can sometimes be very, very instrumental.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Where do all these toilets go when you guys rip them out? I mean, is there some sort of toilet cemetery, or are they recyclable anyway, or what's going on?
So, great question. So what we'd like to see is we would like to recycle them, right? Because sustainability is certainly part of our passion. And that is something that we're actually expanding on right now. There are very few providers out there. So for any of your listeners that are entrepreneurs and they're looking for a business to start, this would be a phenomenal business, is to be able to take apart these old toilets and then recycle the porcelain and also recycle any of the plastics that are inside. Again, there's very few providers out there that do it. It's very expensive, but we have some clients that is their green initiative, and they are, from, day one all the way through. Money is not a factor for them, more about the environment. So other than that, they just go into, the dumpster, and at the end of the day, the crews get, all their aggression out, and they don't have to go work out because they're picking up these 30-pound, 50-pound potties and just, putting them over the dumpster.
Wow.
So,
I mean, yeah, it makes sense to have some sort of, there's on such volume of these things coming out. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, I don't know how recyclable porcelain is. Obviously, that's a factor for it to make a viable business to do that. I know, scrap metal is a great business. I know people, billionaires from that, but that could be melted down and stuff like that. So that would be interesting to see if something like that could happen. Unless they start making toilets out of other materials. Who knows?
Who knows? You never know what we might be working on.
Yeah.
And there's a health factor too. I mean, there's not that many people that want to deal with like all these old toilets that have been through a lot.
Yeah. They need to be
that's gonna be that'll be an issue at the CDC. We get that question a lot. Why don't you donate to like Habitat for Humanity? Is there something you can do? And that's a health. It is certainly a CDC guideline.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. That's pretty wild. Some wild stories out in the Wild West of toilet hunting. But you guys take it with stride, and your passion definitely comes through in everything you guys do. So pretty incredible. I want to transition into the final four, which is the last segment over here. Because since there are two of you, we got to get double the time here, double the answers, double the fun.
Right.
Yeah, we like it.
So I'm going to switch it off. We'll take first question. It's going to be for Kelly. What is the worst job that you ever had?
I would say the worst job that I had was my first job. And both of my girls still do not believe me that this is where my first job was. But my actual first W-2 job was working as a fry girl at McDonald's. And I wish I had the uniform still that I could share back with my kiddos and go, yes. But yeah, for minimum wage, when I was I think I was in 8th grade. I was, because my parents had to sign off on a worker's permit. And I was a fry girl. So it was frustrating when somebody came through the drive-thru and they wanted fries with no salt, because you have to take all the fries out. Start over. The worst. Absolute worst.
Okay. Well, good to know. Anselmo, what about you? What's the worst job you ever had?
It was a summer job when I was in high school. I was working for the county, and my job was to fill up potholes, right? So we were driving all throughout the cities, fixing potholes, putting it, that asphalt in holes. And we did that all day. Wow. Every day. And it was in Arizona during the summer.
Oh,
so
man.
It's 110 degrees. It's back-breaking work. If anything, it taught me, hey, I don't want to use my hands in the future for work. I'm going to use my mind.
For sure.
How can I get away from this?
How can I transition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I usually, come across things like that, community service type workers, federal penitentiary, reacclimation programs, put them on. Unfortunately, that's the case, but yeah, it's hard work over there.
Yeah.
So second question, I'm going to hit you up first and tell me, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I actually didn't read it till recently. So I feel like I've missed out a lot, but I had the opportunity to see him speak about almost a year and a half ago. And that book was just like, my God, I have not looked at finances the same since then. Mm-hmm. Or even where I'm putting my money, or even what is a liability and an asset. Like all of that stuff, that quadrant he talks about was just mind-boggling to me. And I was, ever since then, paradigm shift.
A lot of people either like him or they don't like him.
Right.
There's no in between on that. So, but I think that's mostly because he challenges us, right?
For sure. Yeah. Well, that and, some of these concepts for a lot of people are, like you said, totally like, I never was taught this. Like, why don't they teach this to us? Why don't, parents, and the people that really don't like it are usually just people that they grew up with that. And so like, well, why weren't you taught that? Why didn't you learn that? And so it's a very clear dichotomy there where the difference in thought in that is. But Kelly, what about you? Any book that you've read that's giving you a paradigm shift?
So I just finished a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And I'm in a book club. So we have been discussing that now for the last 4 weeks. And it is a phenomenal book. I think the first chapter, I think I highlighted every single line in it. It was like all yellow and pink, but it touched me in the sense of how I look at adversity and how do you address that. And I strongly encourage anybody to go out and read that book. It's an easy read. It's a small book, and it references back to a lot of history, which I thought was really cool as well, and how that has, come into play in the modern day.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Yeah. So both those books we'll definitely put in the show notes here and add that one to the list as well.
Yeah.
So third question is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn? And I'm going to go back to you on this one, Kelly.
Okay. So I think that a talent I would love to have is to be able to sing, like karaoke. We go to all these great events and I do not know how to sing. And it's strange because I grew up playing the violin. I still play the violins occasionally. And so I have what I feel is a little bit of the musical talent, but I cannot sing. I cannot hold a note. So if I can find a voice coach and then get me up there on stage for karaoke,
there you go.
Man, it'd be fun.
All right.
Well, I'll come into play because I grew up playing the saxophone and I love playing the saxophone, but I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. My dad played the guitar. The music I love, there's a lot of guitar involved. And for me, I think it'd be just a great way to relax and, chill and start playing the guitar. I haven't done it yet. I want to.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, so Kelly can do singing.
Yeah.
Not only can we sling toilets, we can also be a new band.
We could turn the toilets into instruments. Or
man.
Like that.
We're gonna come up with such a good name for your new band once you guys get out there.
And then we'll be in the Smoky Mountains, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'm challenging you guys to take up these newfound, ideas of a talent to go out and do it, and that's what you got to do. So the fourth and final question we ask is, what does success mean to you? So back to Anselmo.
Well, success means to me, what I'm now looking forward to getting to is, that ability to step away from a W-2 job and enjoy freedom financially, freedom of time to travel the world. So that's my goal, is to just travel everywhere as possible, as quickly as possible, as soon as the doors open up here again. But I've been to several countries and I want to continue doing that. So I don't want to have to be tied down to a specific job. I want to be able to go whenever I want.
Very cool.
Yeah. I think he wants to diversify, his environment a little bit, right? Not just staring at bathrooms.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, think about the toilets in India and in Australia. I mean, they flush in a different direction. You think of opportunities.
Yes, exactly.
And the thing that I did realize really quickly is the world's view on water conservation is completely different than the way the United States is.
Yeah.
So they're much ahead of us, especially
Many
like
countries.
Abu Dhabi. Yeah. And I was in Abu Dhabi and it blew me away. Obviously, water isn't huge out there. It's in the middle of a desert. So they got to be conscious of it. Even in Europe, too, a lot of water, they're very conscious of water out there.
Yeah, definitely a lot of countries in the world that are more conscious than the United States. So that's incredible. One of the things, we're working on to change, and you guys are the warriors on the path helping to make that change. So on that note, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
Different paths. Can reach out to us on our website, which is sasconserve.com, and I'm sure we'll drop that in the show notes. You can also find me out on LinkedIn or Facebook at #ThePottyPrincess, or search me by Kelly Stinson.
And you can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm all over LinkedIn. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
I don't have a fancy hashtag. Maybe the Duke of Toilets. I may get that trending here soon. But yeah, definitely find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And I love the analogy that you mentioned to me one time, that it's kind of your virtual LinkedIn is your virtual trade show booth. That's where you got that. I think you're the one that mentioned that first. So definitely a pleasure talking to you guys. Always nice to see you, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you.
A pleasure. And to our listeners, remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.